Hey, I'm back here with Uncle Hayden, and we're getting to share some good stories from when he was small, and some of them my family heritage a little bit, and just history for you, kind of bringing history in your living room, I guess you might say. So, Uncle Hayden, thank you for spending some time with me today. We had talked with you before. I talked to you on the first interview that we did a little bit about your wartime and some different things like that. But I kind of want to know a little bit. Maybe you can share a little bit about some of our family history. Now, you shared something with me when we went to St. Louis to watch the ball game that I didn't know. But I didn't know that my great grandpa was a riverboat gambler.
He was a gambler, all right. He never did. My dad and my grandma, they did the farm work,
Right.
and Grandpa he gambled.
Really?
He played poker with.
Well, knowing your dad, Poppy, well, I called him Poppy. He was ultra conservative. You know what I'm saying? He was so tight that he would squeeze a dollar till you couldn't get any more out of it.
Right.
And trying to imagine his dad being a gambler was kind of a shock for me.
Oh, I tell you, my granddad he won as a farm. He won that farm playing at 160 acres.
160-acre farm. He won it in a card game?
One day and lost it the next.
Yeah. Well, that would kind of make life a little unsure, right, wouldn't it, as a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gambled everything you could imagine. You could. Yeah. He gambled.
You told me a story once, and I'm sure a lot of them hadn't got to hear this story yet, but you told me a story once about him and Poppy traveling to Batesville. Yeah, about borrowing a car or something.
Yeah, they was in the Model T car.
Right.
And we got down there. Grandpa, he'd already walked around all over town. He told my dad, said, I was just my bottom feels cool walking. Said, he told my dad, said, do I have a hole in my breeches? He said, Dad looked, he said, your whole CV pants are out. Said, you got acid, probably been acid in your car seat. And
so the car battery acid had eat the whole back end of his britches out.
Yeah. And his byword said, tag gone. Said, what will I do? My dad said, well, back up here against the wall on the street there. Back up here against the wall, and I'll go get you a new pair of overalls. So he got the overalls, brought them back. He just put them on over his other clothes.
Now, I know that y'all went, for a while, Poppy delivered the mail. Is that right?
Right.
And that's when y'all lived at Moco, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which is actually in Missouri, isn't it? Yeah. Moco and Missouri line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where a lot of our kinfolks are buried up there at Moco.
Right.
Yeah. But now he delivered mail there for a while, but they moved back to Wild Cherry, and then there at Wild Cherry, you was there back at Wild Cherry again. Now tell me a little bit about Celeste's mom, how you met her, and all that worked out, back then.
Yeah, well, back then we had musicals, played music. I used to play a guitar a little bit.
So you had musicals, and that was usually at people's homes, right?
Right.
And then who would come around? Was that when Milton Battles would come around?
Yeah.
Milton was blind, right?
Yeah, he was been blind all his life.
And he taught music that way, didn't he?
Music.
Yeah. And so you played the guitar.
Yes.
Yeah. And you'd have musicals at people's homes, right?
Right. Yeah.
And would they do that like on Saturday nights, or when they would?
Saturday nights, sometime. Well, most time it's on Saturday nights.
Yeah. Yeah. And they just gathered around there to play music and sing.
It's a pretty good sized community. One room schoolhouse.
Right.
That's where I went through college, at one room schoolhouse. But we had fun and we enjoyed it. And we was always looking forward to getting a little better finance,
Yeah.
But we had horses and cows, hogs. but they wasn't worth very much.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and a cow. Oh, they didn't bring nowhere near $100.
Yeah.
Milk cow, I wouldn't.
Well, you could buy a farm back in those days for how much?
Oh, well, when I got married, I bought this farm, 125 acres,
Mm-hmm.
off my wife's dad,
Right.
and I give you $12 an acre for it.
$12 an acre.
$12 an acre.
You know what? I'd give you your money back for it today if I could. You know.
Yeah.
But now you farmed dairy cows for a long time, didn't you?
Yeah, and I milked cows. Back and after we had electricity then, but before that, after I got married, we didn't get, me and my wife didn't have no electricity,
Right.
But about a year, we finally got it. And an electric bill, you wouldn't come this to think about how much it was. But of course, just lights all over.
Right.
No refrigerator, nothing.
Right.
And $1.53 a month.
$1.53 a month.
Electricity bill,
Yeah. So before then, y'all how'd you do? Did you do coal oil lamps?
Yeah, use kerosene lamps.
Coal oil lamps and a fireplace. And a wood cook stove to cook with?
Wood cook stove.
So you had to cook that wood cook stove in the summertime when it was hot too, didn't you?
Oh, it was terrible hot too.
Yeah, yeah. And with no electricity, that means there wasn't no fans in the house either.
No.
There sure wasn't no air conditioner either, was there?
No air conditioning, no fans. Never heard of air conditioning.
Yeah.
And I never heard of air conditioning till a long time after I was nearly grown, I guess.
Now, a lot of young folks don't realize when you say you dairy farmed, so that meant you got up and milked in the morning, and then milked at night, right?
Right.
And how many days a week do you have to do that?
7 days a week.
Yeah.
7 days a week.
7 days a week. What time would you have to get up in the morning to go milk usually?
Oh, we'd get up before we went to school. We'd be down at the barn by daylight milking cows and feeding and everything,
Right.
And then we had to walk to school about a mile and a half to school,
Yeah, that's back when you lived with your mom and dad back then. Yeah.
Right.
So you get up before daylight and milk cows.
Yeah.
And then when you got back home, you'd have to go back and do it again, wouldn't you?
Right.
Yeah. Twice a day.
Yeah. Back then we wasn't just poor people, we were poor people.
I heard somebody say one time, said, money won't make you happy, but poor sure makes you sad sometimes. Right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you another question, Hayden. If the difference that you see in people and the country today as to what it was back then, what are the biggest differences you see now in the 99 years?
Oh, Lord, it's so much different. It's like daylight and dark. It's hard to explain, really.
Because neighbors was neighbors back then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, back then, see, out in the country, we knew everybody, everybody.
Right.
In say a 10-mile distance, you know most all people in little towns,
Yeah.
Just small towns. Yeah, we knew a lot of people.
And people was good about helping one another, wasn't it?
Right. Oh,
yeah.
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 Yeah, it was bad in a way, and in another way, it was good. You wouldn't, back when I was a kid, didn't talk about nothing about war, nothing.
Yeah.
Till I got older.
Yeah.
I know when the war first broke out in Germany, we had to register. Everybody had to register, but me. All my brothers registered.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know my mom said, I was 14 years old then. My mom said that, or gonna get all three of all my boys to Hayden.
Yeah.
Hayden's the only one that went.
And that's something.
Yeah, later.
Yeah.
About 6 years later, I was in service.
Yeah. Well, listen, Hayden, I'm gonna stop this one right here, and we're gonna do another one again for the folks in just a little bit. Okay.
Okay.